Hello everyone and welcome to this video. If you're watching this, this creation is out. You can click on the link above or link in the description and you can subscribe to it for your own game. Now this creation has been out to my supporters for some time now, so huge shout out to them for the additional love they give me. And we're going to be going through the features and showing you some of the things about this heliport if you haven't watched the previous videos or seen some of the details. So this is going to be like a summary of everything. The actual system for the vehicles spawning was created by Sheppy5. He is one of the admins on my Discord server, and huge shout out to him for this amazing code. I could have never written it, but because of that we get to enjoy vehicles spawning in these add-ons. When you subscribe to this add-on, you get it in 11 locations. Each one of them is in a strategic point where it can hopefully supplement you and you can use it to your advantage, whether it's for transporting or search and rescue missions. From the Arctic to the desert and everything in between, you will have a lot of locations where this creation spawns, and I'll show you quickly in the map an overview of these locations, and then we're going to talk about the vehicles that come with it. On the map it will be marked by this kind of indicator, OMUA Heliport, and you'll find them scattered throughout. Just a quick look at the map here, you can see there's one here, and then we have them also at the airports as well on the main island here, and by some of the ports. So that's just a quick overview, kind of how to look for them. Of course, for me in the actual add-on file, I can kind of give a quick overview here of all the locations. So of course we have one on the single player base, the main island I call it. Then we have them at Terminal Spycakes, Komodo, we have them at the airports you see, we have them at some ports, one in the Arctic, and 3 on Mayor, another one here on the fishing village I believe. So we do have them in a variety of locations. And of course you have the capability and functionality no matter where you are to spawn in the vehicles. Now the nice thing about this base is that it has sort of a few different areas that you can look at here. We have kind of our guest parking right here. We have the staff parking there, and those are going to be important later on. Of course the helipad itself. We have a cargo spawning location. You can see it says cargo. And then we have these two universal cargo connector locations. The universal cargo system, if you're not familiar, is a system I developed that uses 3 different systems to place them pretty much on the standard ISO container slot. Now, I didn't invent the ISO container, let's be very clear. So the blue one is the standard container that you get in the game, but then we have R10, which is good for vehicles or boats. We have the H4, which is also the same as the Unicon, so we have 3 of those slots, good for submarines, helicopters, stuff like that. So there are two bays in the heliport like this that you can place a variety of cargo depending on what you're trying to store. Of course you can just plop down your cargo anywhere. The advantage of using this system is that it secures your cargo in that location, so even if there is a tsunami or winds or whatever, your cargo will not go flying. And inside the heliport, on this seat to the left, you actually have the ability to change the systems. So what I was just talking about there for the universal connectors for the cargo, you can change it to H4, you can change it to R10, and depending on what you have it set at, that's going to activate those particular connectors. So as far as spawn points, of course the helicopters are going to go where the H is, the cargo goes where the cargo is, and vehicles are going to go where the staff parking is. That's the only place you can spawn and despawn vehicles. Cars, you cannot put them here in this visitor parking location. Now the building itself, you may recognize, it actually comes from an earlier design that I then revamped and put all kinds of neat things, giving it a much more industrial look in my opinion. I think it kind of came together quite nicely in this case. Before we spawn in any of the vehicles, let's take a quick overview of what the vehicles are. Now here they all are scattered. Of course, in this version, this is just kind of the file that it reads it from, so it doesn't really matter how they are scattered. But over here you have kind of the cars and trucks. Of course, we have our new GTC G1, kind of the Hummer. Then we have kind of a crew vehicle based on a Chevy Suburban or Tahoe. And then we have some smaller variants. Now this is, of course, a very small kind of K truck. And then we have a K van, a little wider, but more useful for carrying things. And then we have some cargo versions. Now this one is good for picking up Unicon containers. This van as well carries Unicon. And then we have a box truck for Unicon and a fuel truck or whatever you want to put in the back. Now you'll notice on the underside that starting with the van and everything onward here has the bottom R10 connectors that I mentioned. So you see this, and then back there we see another one. All of these from the van onward can be placed in the back of the large helicopter. That's this guy right here. So any of these are compatible with driving and parking in the back of this chopper. Now we'll start from the biggest chopper. We have this one, we have the one that I made just recently, the 216, we got the 118, and then some of the smaller versions here. We do get a VTOL as well, and then we got a wide variety of Unicon containers, from just cargo crates all the way to an ROV that actually can go by Unicon, and some medical equipment and rescue. We do get Alta industrial things, which includes a pumpable liquid and a bin for storing minerals or fish or whatever you want. So a wide variety of different applications. And then last but not least, we get the industrial gear. Now this stuff is made to support the Unicon containers, so for loading and offloading. And then in the case of the quad, it's just meant for quick getting around. So these are kind of the industrial equipment. Of course, this base heavily relies on the Unicon system to use a lot of these vehicles and a lot of the helicopters as well for transport. How does that look in the game itself? Well, if you go into the main building here and go to the lobby desk, you can press list available vehicles and you'll get a list right here on the right hand side of your screen. Now it does go away quite fast, so you may have to kind of click it to make it pop up while you're reading it. But once you know what you want, for example, if we want number 2, the Buckle Prairie SUV, you press 2, check out, and boom, it says vehicle spawned. Here it is, and you can use it, drive around, take it places, whatever you want. And once you are ready to return it, you can press this, and now it is no longer there. Same thing for the other systems. So if we go here, we can spawn one of the industrial things. So let's see if we want to get number 15, and we can check it out, and here it is. So this guy is quite useful for loading up Unicon containers and placing them into helicopters or transporting them around. Again, you return it by returning car. Now, if you want something else, such as the helicopters, of course they will spawn on the middle of the helipad. And then again, you return it by returning helicopter. Cargo, likewise, I'm sure you're getting the point. So if you go just to 21, for example, and check out, there is your crate. You return it by returning cargo. Now, we could have had one return button. The problem with that would be if you have vehicles in here, here, and one in the parking, if you press return, it'll return them all. So I opted for having individual buttons so you can return individual parts depending on what you want to return. Now the space inside is quite cozy. We do have kind of this lobby area here for waiting guests and stuff. Over here we have a medical bay. So of course you may have recognized a lot of our helicopters are the RX version or the rescue version with OSAR, which is the division of OMUA for search and rescue. So if that's the case, you can bring them here to the medical bay, and here they'll have a lot of medical things and 2 beds. Now if we make our way up the stairs here, you come to the control center. Now over here you have a variety of different systems, including the CCTV system. You can control all the lights on the compound, including a lot of the spotlights. Quite useful for navigating at night, might I add. So you can really flood the place with lights if that's what you need. You can also turn on the helipad flashing lights, as you see the yellow guys there, or the H4 connectors on the helipad right there where I'm pointing. That is to secure the helicopter and prevent it from leaving if there is a tsunami or high wind or something. Now we have some air control systems, and you can see we got 2 radars, and we got this nice display here that tells us the weather, the temperature, and where the wind is coming from. Now I did adapt it from someone else. I'm going to post the link, of course, in the description of the creation. You can see there's a ship shape. You just have to kind of use it as the pointing or the heading. In this case, we're facing north, so that is what's up there. Over here we have the radio controller. So this is for radioing to the helicopters or other traffic control, so that's there. Nice little coffee station. We got heater. We can turn on the red lights here, which is nice at night, so you don't have kind of a very bright interface in here. And there is a standby room with 2 beds, so kind of like a bunk room. If the attendants here are taking shifts, the other one can be sleeping here. Now, I really do love kind of this modern look. I was going for very industrial, very modern, almost like Avengers style. And I think it worked quite well, to be honest. Now, out here, we have a nice little patio, balcony, and a barbecue. Now, of course, yes, it would be quite smelly from all the aviation fuel, but let's just pretend in Stormworks we can sit here and enjoy the nice weather. And then we can make our way up to the roof. Here is where all the gear is, all the equipment. And if you have to repair something, you can from here. If you make your way down here, you have the main generator and the power to the plant. Some air conditioning units for show. And then over here we have our 2 reservoirs. This is where you can pump in additional jet fuel or diesel fuel to replenish your reservoirs that are underneath the building. They're underground, but you do have the ability here to add as needed. And on the front, you have the actual pumps connected to the back reservoir, and this is where you can actually fill up your helicopter, whether it's a jet fuel helicopter or diesel fuel helicopter or car or whatever you need, into your creation. So that gives us the ability to replenish the fuel. Around the side of the building here, we have an actual working air compressor, so you can use this to add air if you have airlines that need filling. And here is an equipment storage and repair. So it's a little shack here. We got a crate with some parachutes, repair gear, and that concludes the actual building itself. Like I said, we got visitor parking. Here is where you could put other cars. Over here, next to the cargo, we do have a fire pump for water. So you can pump out here and then spray. If you end up with a fire, this is good for putting out that fire if there's ever a crash landing. So that is right here. So hopefully this creation is something that you will enjoy. It was a lot of fun to make. And of course, again, huge shout out to Sheppy5 for the coding. I do think that this is a very useful creation. Now, I did pose the question to the community whether or not I should add drones to the helicopter base. And while the logical answer is yes, I really didn't want to start to change around the building, add rooms, add portions. I was looking at where I could put a drone control station here, and we have the other problem of the list of vehicles. As you could see from the list, it's already so long that there's kind of like the top is kind of cut off. So if I add any more, it will start to get filled and you won't be able to see the list itself. So for the helipad, we're going to stick to helicopters. And what that's going to mean is you just have to stay tuned for me making the next creation, the next add-on, which will be a drone base. And what I'll even do is I'll place the drone bases near and next to the heliports. so they kind of function as one, but they will have their own independent add-ons and systems. You can have both, you can have one or the other, depending on what you like. I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to give a huge shout out to my supporters. The supporters are my YouTube members and my Discord server boosters, and due to them supporting me, I give them special perks. I give them early releases for the creations, I give them early access to the videos, and other things like private chats where we talk about upcoming creations and sort of have ideas bouncing off one another. So huge shout out to those people, and to each and every one of you for watching, for supporting, for being a part of the community. I love all of that, and thanks to that, it makes what I do possible. So thank you for that. I hope you enjoy the heliport creation. It was a fun one to build, and I think that it works perfectly with Stormworks, and it ties in with OMUA and my other sort of standards, including Unicon and all the other things I've been developing. So thanks again, and until next time, happy Stormworksing.